Heads up, it's the Roll Jays podcast, the voice of the Creighton basketball fan. With your hosts, Jimmie Allen, Alex Drake, and Casey Matthews. Join the crew and meet CU players, coaches, and a whole lot more. Now, the Roll Jays podcast. Here's Jimmie Allen.
Jimmie with the new intro, man. I like it.
High level.
He's still muted.
To the Roll Jays podcast, Jimmie Allen. Hey, welcome into the Roll Jays podcast. Jimmie Allen, Casey Matthews with you today, joined by Stephen Ashworth, Creighton's point guard, coming off a big win over DePaul last night. Boys, obviously, the big storyline, Creighton improves to another win in the Big East and closer to that top spot in the conference. Stephen, what was it like last night? Because on TV, it didn't look like a great environment. There was a lot of Creighton alumni in attendance last night. What was the environment in Chicago like last night for you?
It was awesome. Honestly, we had a lot of fans on both sides. The Creighton alumni definitely showed out, whether they traveled or, if they were in Chicago. It was fun to have them there. Obviously, normally on a road game, you're going to have your intimate family section right behind the bench, and then a few more fans spotted around. But last night in Chicago, the fans came out, and thankfully we were able to put on a show for them.
You can always get a seat at Wintrust, is what I learned over my years, and that's a sneaky good. Like what does it matter? We don't have Alex today, so we got a couple extra questions each, right? So let's just go off basketball for a minute. That's a sneaky good hotel, okay? For the road. That's a good Marriott there. I always love that one. Super convenient to be able to walk over. Give us, since we're just going to talk about this stuff, top 3 Big East hotels.
Yeah, top 3 Big East hotels.
Or just travel, places you like to go.
I mean, obviously, you can not only are they close and a short flight, which makes it nice, but the Marquette and DePaul trips are quick. You're going to get home. It's about an hour 15 flight to either one. We actually stayed at a new hotel this year at Marquette. It's right across the arena. So it was similar to where you're at DePaul and the Wintrust and the Marriott Marquis. It's a new hotel chain out there. I think similar to like the Farnham here in Omaha.
Okay.
Under that branch. High level. All the NBA teams stay there.
Yeah, with the high showers?
Yeah, high showers. You got 9-foot ceilings, like high-level hotel.
It's important to me, Steve. It was always I needed a high shower. You know what I mean? Like, gosh, you share my pain.
That's big guards.
Yeah, imagine how Ryan Kalkbrenner feels.
Yeah, he definitely actually appreciates a high shower head. But Marquette, I'd probably say is number 1. Also, just the arena is, super nice. It's the Bucks Arena. And then DePaul is sneaky nice. We're staying at a Marriott Marquis right there. It's connected to the arena. So for shoot around, warm up everything, we just walked right across the Sky Bridge. Never really even had to go outside. Especially nice because it was freezing this weekend, or this week, start of this week, and so that was super nice. And then let's see, what other hotel do we stay at?
I'll be surprised if it's not on your list. I'll be surprised. But
100% St. John's, New York, the Conrad.
Yeah.
It's the best. It's the best.
It's an unbelievable hotel. Shout out Conrad. It's apparently there's a spectacular shower at the Conrad. I have not gotten that room. Apparently there's like new rooms and older rooms. You've got the bathtub with the shower, but then there's this like walk-in shower at the Conrad that Casey's probably.
You didn't have that?
I haven't had it yet. Both times we went, didn't have it. So
we gotta get on Johnny. And
I think Johnny was gonna put in a request that whatever room I'm in, I can get one of the updated showers because I just want to experience it.
Incredible! I need you to bring me back some toiletries Okay.
Okay, I got you.
Okay. Now,
I can do that.
now that all of our fans are logging off, we can get into the real meat of it.
Of all the things I thought when we started this podcast, I thought we were going to cover, I never thought we'd get to shower heads and toiletries.
Hey,
Dude,
I'll
the
tell you what.
toiletries,
I
come
think
on,
about it
Steve.
quite a bit on the road trip to when, like, an underrated privilege is good water pressure. Like, people don't.
Yes.
We don't
Yeah,
appreciate
good
it enough.
point.
Like, good
Good
water
point.
pressure in a shower. That's.
But the
I love it.
Mojave Ghost shampoo in the Conrad is just there's nothing better. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
need
I
some.
got you. I got you.
Maybe get an NIL deal with Mojave Ghost.
I
But
clearly
Jimmy, you
am
can't
not.
say any fans that want to go travel on the road with us. Those 3 spots, you can guarantee you're going to get a nice thing. So
There we go.
providing the fans the content they really want. You know.
100%.
Well, I clearly don't base my hotel stays on shampoo brands that they have. Steven, we got a little bit of a bone to pick with you about the first half last night, though. Back to basketball for a quick minute. Just 3 points in the first half last night. What was your deal?
Yeah, made the first shot of the game and then
Set the bar
nothing.
too high, man. Set the bar too high.
Nothing else the rest of the way. No, I mean it's funny because looking back on last night, very much so. I think about my high school career, to where I was on a team that was very talented, similar to our team, and a lot of it was like game to game, opportunistic opportunities. To where last night I felt like our defense really led to a lot of transition, and a lot of other things that we were trying to establish, and so. There weren't as many shot attempts from myself and some of the other guys, but at the same time, a game like that I think is huge to just get, production from everybody who came in, and so I think we had almost 5 guys in double figures, a lot of guys around that 9 to 7 mark as well, and so that stuff I think is just big as we were kind of rounding out the first half of conference play, that we have these games, especially. When we were able to take care of business early and kind of gain a lead to make sure that everybody could have opportunities. And then, I think also when it matters most, being ready for everybody to step up when they need it.
Yeah, it was interesting watching because I felt like it was pretty clear with Fedor in his minutes. I felt like he had his best game, definitely his most productive game. Pretty clear that the bench was really into that. And, really celebrated his success, which was cool. I think from a fan's perspective, everybody wants to see him play. There was a lot of hype around him. And then the fact that, Steven, better than anybody, guys that aren't playing due to red shirts or maybe injuries early in the season, they're always better than they probably really are. And so there was a ton of hype. And I think a natural letdown when he didn't come in and just light it up the first couple of games. I'm sure that permeates into the team a little bit and you guys feel it, but can you talk about that, like your relationship with players like that who just need a good game? There's a lot of expectations around it. And like, why is there so much joy for a kid like Fedor or a guy like Fedor having a good game?
Yeah, I think that you hit it on the head when it comes to there's pressure, there's expectations, especially when you're coming into a program and a culture like Creighton where so many people care so much about what we do and who we are. And then to also add on top of the fact that he had played at the highest level in Europe and had been a really key piece for his team there and had produced at a high level, to then come to a completely new roster, all of the things that go in and out with his eligibility and understanding, is he going to be eligible or not? And his attitude and effort every single day at practice to be committed to the team and the process and what we were about, whether it was him on scout team or other roles that he maybe had during that time of kind of limbo. I think that the entire team can just celebrate and be happy for the chance that his opportunity came and he was ready for it and he made plays. And, I thought that we were able to get a glimpse of what he was capable of and his ceiling is even that much higher. But at the same time, this team, game to game, everybody's night is going to be different. So where different defensive coverages, different lineups are going to require different things. And so to be able to have Fedor be productive and efficient in his minutes, and aggressive is another thing that I think we were waiting for him to be is a little more aggressive. Was a great thing to see because we're going to need it for sure the rest of the year.
You couldn't help but notice not only the elation on their face, but the elation on everybody's face. And Fred talked about it in the post game with Connor Happer. But when you get guys like Shane Townley Thompson in there, and you get guys like Sammy Osmani into the game, and they get opportunities, what was it like to see those guys get those minutes? Because they're obviously running the scout team and doing a lot of the dirty work behind the scenes. How awesome was it to be able to see them get out there in a Big East game and get their minutes?
Yeah, it's super fun. And as a teammate, that's what you're in a team sport for, is to celebrate other people's success and to be happier for other people even than for yourself when the time calls for that. And those guys have been nothing but great teammates the entire year. And that's just the culture that this team has, I believe, is that we're there for each other. We celebrate each other's success. And when it's your time to cheer, you better be on your feet and you better be excited for those guys who are going out there and making plays. And it was special for, that to be potentially Sammy's last game in Chicago, his hometown, and to be able to score in front of all of his friends and family. And then for JTT to get his first career bucket in a non-exhibition game at Creighton was something that we were all celebrating and super happy for him as well, because not only do guys do a lot of work on the scout team, but they're in the gym putting in individual work, getting better as players themselves to try to be the best player they can be for this team.
And Shane's obviously seen more play time down the stretch, but Josh and Sammy have kind of been those guys that have been, like to your point, in the exhibition games and things like that. But what is the discussion with those guys, like day in and day out, about that moment coming and being ready and keeping like the motivation to continue to work when maybe the minutes aren't coming?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot of conversation between probably players in that regard when it comes to staying ready for your moment, understanding the fact that as their roles change throughout the season, there's just going to be a natural ebb and flow to the understanding of what their expectation game to game might be. But at the same time, whenever their name is called, it's important that everybody is excited for it, because for all of the effort and work that they put in, we talk a lot about, and I think that it's important for any team or organization to understand that no role is more or less important to a team's success. They're just different. Ryan Kalkbrenner's role is different than Sammy Osmani's, and my role is going to be different than Shane Thomas's. But at the same time, everybody's role is going to be a vital piece towards our overall success. And I think that this group has a really good buy-in on that principle, which has allowed us to grow and make leaps and bounds over the season and continue to progress.
I'd like to add something onto that too. Is I think with Coach Mack, you don't really ever have to question what your role is. I think he does a really good job, especially with those guys, of making it clear, even in the recruiting process, of like, hey, we'd love to have you on here as a walk-on. The minutes are going to be slim to none, but you're going to be expected to be in class. You're going to be expected to be at every lift and work just as hard as every other player on the court that's playing. And letting people know that ahead of time and having that honesty. I think there's a lot of coaches that don't do that, and they kind of can string you along. And so I've always found Mac does a great job. And then you got a guy like Sammy that, like, yeah, he's from Chicago, but also what he's battled through injury-wise to keep coming back for the role that he has. Then last year, I remember he was cutting film, and helping the guys in the film room when he was injured. Like, that's a guy right there. I'm glad that we're getting a chance to kind of praise him, because that's a guy that he's really grown up a ton since he first got there. And you want to talk about just accepting your role and starring in it. I think he's done a really good job. So it's good that we got a chance to kind of heap some praise on him. Can we go back, Steve? Because we didn't see you after UConn. I've actually spent some time thinking about this. I've always been a part of a lot of games with Coach Mack. And I was sitting there on my couch before tip-off, and they kind of always do the little camera deal where they show them. And I just had a feeling like Mac was really locked in at that moment, and I don't know what it was. He's played Dan a ton of times. Like, it's not like this is a new one, but he just had a look about him that was like, I don't know what it was. Did you feel that? Because that game was an absolute masterclass of coaching. Now, I know players have to make the plays. I get that. But he's got to also help put you in the right positions. And everything he called worked. It was at the right time. His feel in that game, it's one of the best I've seen from him. Did you feel that? And what is it like? What's that like to be so connected like that with him?
Yeah, I think that as a point guard, you have some of an inside scoop as well when it comes to the understanding of each game and the game plan of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish. And Mac definitely had all the I's dotted and the T's crossed from an understanding perspective of what was going to work for our game plan and what we needed to execute on both ends of the floor to be successful in that game, as well as the fact that we knew that this stretch of right after the new year, 4 out of 5 are going to be on the road. It's going to be a tough stretch of conference play, and it's going to really show us who we are and what we're capable of being. And that was one of those games where we were going to be tested on the road, and there was going to be runs, and there was going to be ebbs and flows of the game. But if we continued to trust in what we had, practiced and what we had walked through and what we had learned throughout the week, that we were going to be able to be successful and be in moments to like you said, to where the players could go make the plays. And I think there's a credit to both sides of that, of calling the right plays, making the right adjustments and seeing the right things. And then some of the guys making big plays at big time moments. 100%. You think about Jimmie, the way that he got us started and kind of kept us afloat to start that first half. And then you get big shots out of Isaac Trout and a plethora of other guys that just make plays, winning plays, if you will. And I think that was a big thing for us, is we were able to walk away from that game, not just about the execution, but also about the toughness and the mentality that this team can have, that when we go out and make winning plays, whether it's box outs or offensive rebounds, you think about the three-pointer that I hit. Both of them actually came off of offensive rebounds, one by Mason Miller, one by Isaac Trout in that game. And so those second chance points are huge, especially because, defenses are staying pretty locked, face guarded onto me and some of our other shooters. So realistically, the best 3-point shots you're going to get are going to come off offensive rebounds. And so those little types of things within a game, I just thought that we were locked into, and it starts with your head coach and it goes all the way down to the bottom. And I think that also led to a mature victory against a DePaul team who is trending in the right direction and just hasn't gotten those wins. They were, if you look at their schedule, they were about 3 wins away from being 4-3 in conference. Right. And all of those were either 2-point losses in overtime or, give or go games. And so there was a lot of that to where we just had to be locked in and focused. And I think Coach Mack's done a really good job of making sure that everybody's on board and locked in.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you're a senior, because to mention that on the heels of UConn is huge. And you're right, because those are, they talk about trap games, but those can certainly be those games if you get caught looking at the standings. That's really smart. I also think a lot of people, when I think about UConn, you think about toughness and you think about those sorts of things. I don't know if enough people understand how intricate their offense is, and like it's probably the only team in the conference that runs the same amount of sets as we do. And there's so much to be prepared for defensively that it can get overwhelming. So I was really impressed. I really have a question, just more of a statement of like just the way you guys handled that. Okay, and so bouncing back and
do you
love
Dan Hurley? Is that something you'd like to say?
I do love Dan. I
on this podcast.
I love Dan Hurley. I do. I think he's incredible. I think he's so good for the sport. But obviously, I love Coach Mack more. But I don't want Dan leaving UConn. I think it's great.
It is the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing and Pyramid Contractors. You can always get your questions in for myself or Stephen Ashworth if, for whatever reason, you have a question for Casey Matthews. I don't know why you would, but you could ask him as well. Tyler on YouTube wants to know, Stephen, did Baylor Shireman inspire your new haircut?
Oh, that's a good question. No, not really. I do love my guy B. I got to see him actually at UConn, which was awesome. Talked to him for a little bit. And always good to have him around. But really, I haven't done the hair quite yet. It will be a little more spiked up. I just barely got it cut right before this, and And
If only you knew you were going to be on camera.
Yeah, I didn't know I was going to be on camera, but it's all good. And realistically, I felt like it was getting just a little too floppy when I was running, and so trimmed it down a little bit, got a little tighter of the fade. So looking forward to showing it off Saturday, I guess.
Jimmie, what did you say was Baylor's burner account name on YouTube? Is it
Tyler P.
Tyler? Okay.
Yeah.
Because nobody was, yeah. Baylor's the only one that would be wondering that.
Because Baylor's definitely taking time out of his day to listen to our podcast. That's for sure, too.
He ain't got nothing else better to do these days.
He absolutely does. Hey, Jimmie, you got another one, or you want, I got ready. I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, go ahead and ask one. You're good.
Okay. So let's turn the page to Seton Hall. Pink out game. We won't go hoops yet. I'll let Jimmie handle the hoops question, But pink out game. Anybody that game for like really stands out for you? You want to give a shout out to as you get ready for that? It's such a cool moment. I think it's everybody's favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely an easy favorite game of the season just because of what it means. It's definitely bigger than basketball, and it definitely reminds me of my Uncle Wayne, who passed away of brain cancer almost 3 years ago now, and it's something that it's an honor to be able to play that day for him and remember him because he was such a huge supporter of me in my career and was always texting me after games and coming to games when I was playing in Logan, and my Aunt Kristen as well. And so shout out to both of them. Going to be thinking about them on Saturday for sure, and I'm just grateful for an opportunity to play for them.
Yeah, and I mentioned this last night on the post game show. It's not only just my favorite moment of the Creighton calendar. It's my favorite sports moment of the entire year when they play the song and everybody stands up and holds the signs and it just take that minute away from everything happening on the court to make it about the fans in the stands. That's a really rare moment in sports where you could showcase the crowd. Not that it's about that, but I mean just giving everybody that individual platform in a mass of 17,000 people is just a really cool moment.
Absolutely.
It's incredible, and I'm sure, like when you're in the game, obviously you're focused on the timeout and whatever Mac's drawing up. But I mean, being there on the floor and looking around, you get caught up in it. Every year you'd see a couple players kind of just looking around in awe of.
I've seen Mac do
just
it.
How, 100%. I mean, it's obviously the cause of it is huge, but I think. Really, it's the fact that, like you said, there's 17,000 people all thinking about the same thing and all like rowing the boat in the same direction, so to speak. And that doesn't happen. I mean, think about the day and age we have now, like we're very divided. And, so anytime you get that many people all thinking positively about the same thing, I think it's really special. And I remember, Steve, when we recruited you and showing that video on your visit. And it's like, those are huge moments that especially the parents love to see that you guys are going to be involved in something that's bigger than just trying to put the ball in the basket. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'd agree 100%. And I mean, it's also, you think about that moment within the game too, of just how important it is to constantly, honestly, every day think about somebody beside yourself. And that's a cool moment where quite literally everybody in that arena is thinking about somebody else and what that.
God, you said it so much better than me, Steve. I was trying to say it right, and you just crushed me. But I love it. I love it.
I felt what you were saying.
I went with row the boat. I went row the boat, and you went.
It's a big boat. It's a big boat. If we're all in it, 17,000 in the boat.
I have so much to learn from you,
Casey. We'll allow the allow the Dan Hurley love, but if you keep throwing PJ Fleck references out, we're gonna have to kick you out of this podcast. Steven, when we talk about, Casey brought up looking ahead and keeping an eye on the standings and stuff. And we know during the season you tend to delete your social media unless you're promoting something. How often is the discussion about a regular season Big East championship even being brought up within the locker room? Or are you guys so focused on one day at a time that's not even a topic of discussion right now?
Yeah, that's a good question because it's definitely a balance between both of – you're in this process-oriented world of as high-level athletes – you really got to understand it's a different mindset than an everyday type of mindset if you're going to play pickup or if you're doing anything else in basketball, to where really our mindset has to be we're going to put in as much work and effort as we can in the days leading up to the game. And then it's once the game hits, it's time for the results to come. And good or bad, you have to live with it. And that's realistically, that's the only way that you can get through a season and be mentally stable at the end of it, because there's so many ebbs and flows and so many highs and lows to that, to where realistically, if you put in that work and you put in the effort, then you can lay your head down at the pill at the end of the day and know I did everything in my power to make sure that the results were positive. And last night they were good or bad, indifferent, right? And you can move on. And so I think that from there, this team has done a good job of just maturing to recognize there is that on the horizon of that game by game. If we take care of business, at the end of that, the result can be a regular season Big East championship. But at the same time, there's going to be things out of our control to where you only play every team twice. And that other team might have the greatest games ever against everybody else and go undefeated against everybody else, and you can't control that because you're not in the opposing team's locker room when you're battling against, the St. John's, Marquettes, UConns for the standings right now. Those games outside of us playing them, we can't control. So there's definitely balance to both of it, of just making sure that we're taking care of that next game ahead, but then also at the same time, making sure that we have some motivation and some inspiration that, hey, there's something bigger at the end of this if we take care of what we take care of.
Jimmie, you're muted. This is the first time.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm an amateur over here. Every other day it feels like Field of 68 or ESPN or Last Four In or whoever it is putting out a bracket, and Creighton's one of those teams that's on 3 or 4 different lines depending on which bracket you're looking at. Is that something you guys even worry about in the season, or is it even possible to keep your eyes away from material like that when you know what impact it could have?
Yeah, at the end of the day, that's what the season is for, is to compete for championships, and that's the big championship. And there's one way that you can secure your spot in that, and that's in March in New York City at the Big East tournament. But outside of that, you have every single game before that to also try to secure your spot by being, in front of the committee and putting your best foot forward. And so I think for me personally, this being my 5th year in college basketball, I'm more easily able to not view it and not worry about it and just go out and know that the season's going to take care of itself, and that if we keep improving and if we're playing our best basketball in March, that we're going to be in a really good position. And nobody's going to want to play the Creighton Blue Jays, and that's the type of confidence that I have in this group. But with that being said, I also have felt some understanding of the guys looking at that a little more and just trying to be a voice to them by saying, hey, it doesn't matter what other people think about us at this moment. We got to make sure that we go out and take care of business, and if we do that, everything will fall in line. Because at the end of the day right now, everybody's just guessing, and in some ways, different outlets will change what seed line we were on just to create buzz and just to get fans to talk about it a little more. So,
would you like to personally tell John Fanta his opinion doesn't matter then, or should we skip over that?
No,
I respect all of our media guys.
There you go. That's the right
John's
answer.
always been great to me. So.
What's up, Peyton? No, we don't need to tell. We don't need to tell John that one.
Peyton and Tommy finally made their first appearance on the podcast.
Yeah, they made their first appearance. They had to pass through the hallway.
I think it only took 9 episodes.
Well, listen. When you get Steven, he's on social media. He's on this. He's on. I mean, at some point, I think you just got to be like, I want some of this limelight. And Peyton had enough. She's like, I'm doing it. So, anyway, the last one for me, and we can let you go. Is that you're kind of on the heels of that question there with the seeding, and then obviously the pink out game in and of itself is cool, no matter how good you're playing or how bad you're playing. But with you guys, won 4 in a row, a lot of momentum, and then now you have Seton Hall and then Xavier, right? So two big ones. How do you sort of compartmentalize like what your goals are, right, with like your own personal goals? I just knowing you and just watching you, I know there's things that you're willing to improve on and get better. And you also have a career after this. Like, how are you doing? Just kind of compartmentalizing the two goals, I guess you'd say, team versus personal.
Yeah, I think that in a lot of ways, if you're doing it the right way, you actually don't have to compartmentalize it, because your goals will be obtained by you seeking after the team's goals. And I think if you can bridge that together, that's where everybody's going to be successful. Everybody's going to find more joy within the game. And so it's somewhat of that cliche saying of high tides raise all ships. And even before the season, I think before the season I was feeling more stress and expectation about really performing well and being that lead point guard and lead guard for this team, as well as the aspirations to play in the NBA after this and professionally. And so with that, there was a great conversation that I had with Coach Trey actually about, hey, the biggest thing is at the end of the day, if we win, you're going to get seen, you're going to get looked at. Mm-hmm. And that's really what I've really prioritized my focus of being, is doing whatever it takes on any given play to win. And so when we go back in the film room, really even more so than looking at made or missed shots, looking at plays where, hey, did I give all of my effort on that to make sure that I made a winning play? And as the season's gone on, I feel like I have gotten better at that and improved at that. And so when I'm thinking about my goals and aspirations after just Creighton basketball, I think that they're already being achieved as I put the team first and focus on what we're trying to accomplish as a team. And I see all of the other guys doing that same thing as well, which just makes us that much better, that much more together, and more cohesive as a group.
Yeah. Let me just follow up on that, though. Has it gotten harder throughout your career? Like, in obviously, you play with a lot of really good players that are still playing after they graduate. Has it gotten harder throughout your career with the influx of agents, of NIL, or do you feel like you've been able to just kind of keep what you're saying, just keep the team goals first and let the rest take care of itself?
Yeah, I think it's definitely different, because throughout the different years, there's been different maybe personalities and dynamics with every team. And I think that scarcity from one player creates scarcity to another, and then there's scarcity on the entire team, which is something that you never want. And so I think that in some years, maybe not over the years has it been harder, but in certain years there maybe have been times where it's a little bit harder to say, hey, you know what, on that plane ride back home, if we win, I'm going to be happy whether I had 20 or whether I had 2. And then the reverse, right? On that plane ride back home, if we lose, I'm going to be looking at myself in the mirror whether I had 20 or whether I had 2, because there's definitely a lot of times where you can see it with certain teams or certain players that their biggest thing at the end of the game is checking that box score to see exactly what their minutes were, what their stats were, and all those types of things, as opposed to making plays to win. And when you got a guy like Ryan Kalkbrenner who's all about winning, I think that he sets a pretty good standard for the rest of the team to follow, and has made it pretty easy this year to make sure that we're all focused on winning.
This has been the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing and Pyramid Contractors. Don't forget, you can donate to Creighton's NIL Collective, the Bird Club, by scanning the QR code in your top right corner. All proceeds will go to benefit student athletes like Stephen Ashworth, and as well as this podcast. Guys, we'll catch up, reconvene next week. Hopefully talk about a win after the pink out game, and Creighton maybe being the number 1 team in the Big East Conference. For Stephen Ashworth, Peyton Tommy, that's Casey Matthews. I've been Jimmie Allen. Go Jays.